Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. In this episode, I feature Lavar Munroe. He is an interdisciplinary artist whose work encompasses painting, drawing, sculpture, and installation art, creating hybrid forms that straddle the line between sculpture and painting. He has exhibited widely, nationally and internationally. He was included in Prospect 4, the Lotus in Spite of the Swamp, the New Orleans Triennial curated by Trevor Schoonmaker. His work was also featured in the 2015 Venice Biennale and the international art exhibition All the World's Futures, curated by then Biennale's director, Okwui Enwezor. He has been awarded residencies at the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture, the MacDowell Colony, the Headlands Center for the Arts, Joan Mitchell Center, amongst others. Lavar was an inaugural artist in the residence at the Norton Museum of Art and is a recipient of Joan Mitchell Foundation's Painters and Sculptors Grant. He has exhibited at several institutions which include Orlando Museum of Art, Nasher Museum of Art, MoCADA, the National Art Gallery of Bahamas, to name a few. He currently lives and works between Baltimore, Maryland and Nassau, Bahamas. Enjoy this episode of the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast featuring Lavar Munroe. Lavar, welcome to my Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Phyllis.
Yes, my pleasure. When did you discover your artistic passion?
I discovered my artistic passion pretty young, and recently I inherited a bunch of family photos, and I was flipping through those photos, and surprisingly enough, there was a photo of me with a pencil in my hand, drawing on a piece of paper, and it seemed as if I may have been 4, 5, around there. So I think, reasonably say that I had a passion from a very young kid, it seems.
And you were drawing. Do you have any memory of what you were drawing?
No. Yeah, I don't have any memory. I just know that it was me with the pencil on the paper, and I don't have a memory of drawing then at all.
And was there a particular artist that influenced you as you got older?
So, first of all, I grew up in the Bahamas, and in the Bahamas, art was not something that was greatly appreciated within society, but also it was never really pushed within the school system. So I kind of grew up through high school not being really exposed to artists from the Western world or artists outside of the Bahamas pretty much. I mean, of course, you know the names Picasso and Van Gogh and those names. But to say formal exposure, I didn't have that growing up. But there were local artists within the Bahamas who were still are practicing in the Bahamas, who I looked up to and who I looked to for guidance at a young age. But those are the artists who I guess early on influenced me.
Mm-hmm. How would you define your practice?
My practice, I think it's a weird merging of painting and sculpture and drawing. So there are oftentimes many objects that are embedded in the painting, somewhat like a relief painting or sculpture from historic times. Then there is the actual painting, which actually comes secondary to the object being placed on the canvas. And the paintings oftentimes, I guess, respond to the objects, and the objects sometimes also leads the story that's being told in the overall piece.
Are there concepts that connect your work?
Yes, there are. Yeah, quite a few concepts and theories and histories that I kind of point to within my work. I mean, first of all, I'm coming to the work as a storyteller in many ways. And I think a lot of that storytelling capability or understanding came from, again, back in the Bahamas when we grew up with stories. You know, we grew up with mythologies that our grandparents and our parents told us all the time. And we tried to use those stories to make sense of the world that we lived in. You know, again, we were on a tiny island, but always had a lot of questions, questions about religion always was a thing. And again, we are also a Christian nation, so many churches. Question about existence, question about placement within society, like all of those things were active questions, that we had as kids, and many of our parents and grandparents use mythology or their understanding of religion to try to help us better understand our placement at the time. So definitely coming from a storytelling background, I think other concepts in the work is definitely mythology. Mythology in the sense that I look at the work as making my own mythology of sorts. And the mythology that I'm speaking about is these characters that I create that oftentimes red, and I consider them red bones, and their counterparts, which are yellow, and I consider them yellow bone, and kind of using those characters to again try to speak about the world in a way that oftentimes is ignored or misinterpreted.
Do you feel that your audience understands your work, and do you think about who your audience is when you're standing in front of a canvas?
My audience understand the work. It's kind of hard for me to say if my audience understand or don't understand. I know oftentimes the work triggers various emotions. I do know that the work oftentimes leads to ongoing conversations. And I think just within those two things, there has to be some sort of understanding or some sort of communication happening between the audience and the piece for there to be an ongoing conversation, for there to be tears, for there to be laughter, like there is some sort of transaction that's happening, And to answer the second part of the question, do I consider the audience when I'm making work? To be honest, not really. When I'm making work for myself. I'm making work to serve as a therapeutic platform. I think oftentimes I can look at the work and I can see multiple characters, and within each one of those characters, I see myself. So it's definitely a very self-centered. I mean, I don't think that's the best term, but a self-centered way of making work. So yeah, there's very little consideration given to what somebody outside of myself would think or feel during the time of making, if that makes sense.
It does. And how do you feel? Like, does anything overcome you as you approach a blank canvas?
Yes, oftentimes. Yeah, it's weird. Phyllis is like really, really weird what happens. So usually, yeah, it's weird and it varies. So I can go anywhere from being extremely like joyous and excited to being washed away in tears. So it's and it's hard to predict those things until it actually happens. And usually this happens, I wouldn't say within a blank canvas, but as the canvas is beginning to mature. Mature in the sense as conceptually, color-wise, compositionally, like all of those things are starting to come together. That's when the emotions really happen.
And when do the titles of the work enter the creative process?
That's always the very end. So that's how I know when a work is finished. Yes, when I title the work. And again, most of the works go to multiple titles. And I kind of look at each title as a working title. It's not like writing an essay. you cannot get an essay in one go. There are drafts and working drafts and final drafts, and then you have a final. And it's the same thing with not only the making process, but I think the making of the title. I go through at least 3 or 4 titles before I get one.
Interesting. Do you listen to music while you work?
Sometimes. Actually, every day, but during different shifts. So I work on 2 shifts, if that makes sense. So I have a morning shift, and then I will probably take a nap usually around 3:30, and I wake up around 4:30, and then I work until night. So during the morning shift, I just listen to talk radio. And the talk radio is very specific. So it's talk radio from the Bahamas. And I listen to that until it's time to take my nap. And then after I get up from a nap, I listen to music. And the music takes me throughout the night. And that's every working session. That's how it operates.
What does your workspace look like?
Oh, it's nice.
That's good.
It's pretty big. I have a really big workspace. I try to keep it organized, meaning knowing exactly where to rest my hands and stuff. But I have about 2,000 square feet. 2,000. Yeah. So I have about 2,000 square feet that I'm working with. And it's actually in an old cannery warehouse in Baltimore. It's nice. It's the best studio I've ever had. Big bay windows. Yeah, it's nice.
How has your practice changed over the years?
Oh, yeah, it's changed tremendously. It's gone in phases, So I remember, I guess let's start from undergraduate. So I went into undergraduate painting traditionally, but very tiny. And during undergraduate, I studied illustration. So when I left my undergraduate studies, I left as an illustrator working digitally. And this was about in 2007. I graduated undergrad. Yeah, so I left working digitally and began working as an illustrator for 4 years. And then during that time, continued to work digitally, but combining traditional drawing with digital coloring. And the end product was a one-of-a-kind print if it was to be shown in an exhibition space, or otherwise it would just simply be printed in a magazine or poster or whatever. So I went from doing that to entering graduate school and being pushed to make ugly work, because I think the work that I went into was a bit polished. It still was gritty, but a bit polished than the work that I began doing in graduate school. And then I stopped painting and sculpted for a while, actually. I was doing these cardboard sculptures for a while. And then I began painting in semi-abstraction briefly. Did a double series in this very weird abstract way of painting. But during that time, to me, I was really learning how to paint. And then it's now what I'm doing. But in between that, I always drew. So yeah, it's always changing and evolving. And also now I'm beginning to think about animation and the moving image and computer-aided design again. So yeah, we will see. But it's always changing though.
What materials do you use with your sculptures?
Predominantly cardboard. And the reason for that is, so in the Bahamas, we have this festival known as Junkanu, where we construct these very elaborate costumes with the base being cardboard. And as a kid, I kind of grew up in that environment and was taught a lot of the techniques that they were doing. So as an adult, I left that space, haven't done Junkanu in a long time, and began to make sculptures again, but also begin to think about cardboard in a very specific way. So when I began making the sculptures out of cardboard, I began to think about the cardboard in a sense as it being a material, a cheap material for one, but also a material of greater means for many homeless people. So homeless people were using them as beds, using them to make toys, making them for their kids, using them as shelter, et cetera, using them sometimes as blankets and clothing and that type of stuff. So what I began doing is I began doing like material exchanges. So I would go to homeless encampments and I would take clean cardboard in exchange for dirty cardboard. Not really dirty cardboard, but cardboard that was used by these homeless people. And what came out of them was sculptures. So I was using the cardboard from, pretty much from like the streets and homeless encampments to make these very elaborate sculptures that to me served as a celebration of these people who I was getting the material from. So in a sense, I was thinking of myself as a maid, you know. I service you, I take this. But from what I take, I was building these things. And then secondly, as a critique on the society who can spend $30, $40, $50,000 on a sculpture, but you cannot give the guy I'm getting a sculpture from, the material from, $1 type thing. You know, so I was using it as a tool of critique. So now I'm to the point where anytime I do sculpture, it's usually when I travel to a place. So I did a huge one in Dakar, Senegal, where I went to the local market where they were doing all the exchange, and I was again taking the cardboard from that space, taking it to the studio in Senegal, and I again building a big elaborate sculpture. And for me, what was different about that is all the boxes I was getting from this market all had like weird addresses, you know, Mali, Gambia, Nigeria, to and from, you know, so that kind of made up the sculpture there, and again spoke about many things, you know, transport, family, heritage, et cetera, exchange, et cetera. So yeah, usually, long story short, I just get cardboard from various strategic places to make the sculptures that I've been making to date.
Fascinating. How do you keep learning?
How do I keep? I think for me, I've always not been at ease or complacent with things. Work being one of those things, art being one of those things. When I say work, I'm speaking about art, you know. So yeah, and with that and ease, I'm always searching, you know, and I'm not searching so much for something that's trendy. I'm more interested in searching something that can serve the work. And again, that can range anywhere from looking at a Da Vinci drawing to looking at work by Thomas Hushran or some, you know, or Chris O'Feely, or we can go on and on and on. Yeah, but things I find necessary to kind of look at. So I think this uneasiness has served as a catalyst for me always wanting to expand, but also a fear of just being bored. You know, like I don't want to do the same thing forever. So what can I do to continue to stimulate my creative juices? And again, it goes from sculpture. Now I'm into trying to animate the things that I've been painting. I think that is the next ball of excitement for me. I still enjoy painting, but to see these stuff beginning to move, to collaborate with the sound designers is something that I'm interested in, and see where it goes. I can see this in theater as well, you know, but there are a lot of things that I want from this work, and I'm still young, and hopefully I'm able to fulfill many, if not all of them, before I die.
What do you feel is the purpose of art?
I think the purpose of art for me is to first and foremost record a period within life, within society. I'm always thrilled about the idea of being able to leave behind artifacts when I die, many artifacts. So I think that is another thing. You think throughout history. We know the story of Britain or of Nigeria or of China, Asia, because of the artwork that was made during those times. I know images and theories based on the Bible because of images that were made during that time. And again, I think about my work or any artist's work as the same thing. We are marking a time. We're speaking about, I guess, things that either bring us pleasure or pain. And we're sharing it with the world, you know. And I think that's important. I think there's a lot to be said about being able to do that and leave something behind, you know. And that's definitely one of the driving forces outside of my genuine passion for what I do. I'm very interested in that notion of leaving things behind.
What are you excited about now?
There are a few things. So an upcoming solo show in Chicago, which is very, very exciting to me. the Zeit Smoker in Cape Town. There's a show coming up that includes my work there. I'm really excited about that. Hopefully I get to go to see that show. So Pompidou-Metz in France, there's another show there that I'm getting ready for this year. And then my London show with Jack Bell Gallery, another solo show that I'm very interested in, among other things. But they're just a few things from the top of my head that I've been thinking about.
Definitely sounds exciting, and something keeping you very busy.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate your time and your answers. Your answers made me think while I was listening.
Oh, thank you. And I enjoyed it as well. I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Thanks. So this is the final question, and that is, as a visual artist, what do you feel is your role? I mean, how do you want to impact the way people think?
My role. I think an impact that I would like to have is for somebody to approach something that I've thought about or created or some written work and be able to leave and have like very valid, real, critical conversations about the concerns that the work have. And most of those concerns are, for me, societal, a lot of societal concerns that the work addresses that I would hope that people can take back and have like real human conversations about thinking, conversations, critical conversations that really matter, So that's what I think the role of an artist should be. I mean, that's the work I aspire to continue to make. But I think, that is a major role of an artist, I think, to be able to force conversations. I think a lot of conversations cannot be said verbally, and then sometimes I think using other mediums to kind of enter those conversations isn't not necessarily a bad thing. And I think definitely visual art, music, even sometimes culinary arts to have these conversations, make sense.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the work you do, and I'm glad you're on Instagram because that's where I discovered you. I saw your work and loved it. So
thank you. I'm a late bloomer on Instagram. Still learning.
Better late than never.
I know, right?
Definitely caught my eye.
Thank you.
But thank you once again for your time.
Thank you for listening. It's been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.